I need to bring up something. I think the best documentarian alive right now is a guy named Chris Smith. He's the guy who did the Vince McMahon doc that's out right now.
I started that. Yeah.
He did Fire, Jim and Andy.
He did Tiger King.
King.
He did 100-Foot Wave. I don't know if you guys saw that one. It was fucking incredible.
I didn't see that one.
100-Foot Wave is like
spectacular.
So these guys are seeking to ride a 100-foot wave, right? And they're these big wave surfers. They get towed in. And you should probably see it. And there's this wave in Portugal, Nazaré. I'm probably mispronouncing it, but essentially what happens is because of the way like Nazaré Bay is created over millions of years, these two swells come together, they create these gigantic peaks, and you can surf the biggest waves in the world there. Anyway, this guy, okay, this is what's so impressive about like documentaries that are fantastic. You have to create a story that you cannot control. Yeah, you can control it to a certain extent, but like you're using what people are telling you.
Right.
Right? You can't change their words. And I'm watching this Vince McMahon doc, and I went into it as someone who like, I watched wrestling when I was young, but I wasn't like the biggest wrestling fan. Like I got caught up a little bit with The Rock or whatever. Like when I was younger, maybe Hogan and The Ultimate Warrior or whatever. Obviously always loved The Undertaker. The Undertaker's just like iconic to me. It's almost like bigger than wrestling.
Yeah.
But I'm watching this documentary, and first of all, one episode in, it's the best documentary on TV right now. Please, everybody go watch this fucking thing. It's absolutely amazing. I wish I watched wrestling because it is such a beautiful distillation of whatever is happening in American culture at the time.
Yeah.
Because it's a mirror on purpose. They're reflecting the trends that are happening and then showcasing them in a little bit more cartoonish way, obviously, through the wrestling. I always looked at it, I was like, is this like an athletic thing? Is this, people believe it's real, at least when I was younger, but then it's not or whatever. It has nothing to do whether it's real or not. It's these storylines that they put together and literally turning it, there's this saying, everything is wrestling. I didn't even understand until I was watching this documentary. Doing the most, sometimes is salacious, sometimes it is the most seductive, sometimes the most evil, sometimes it's the most heroic thing at the time. And long-term thinking, you have to set up a WrestleMania months prior. And watching the way that they would reflect culture, understand what the people wanted, and knowing that if people are upset vocally, it's just as good as if they're happy vocally. If they're cheering or booing, it's the same.
It's like soap operas for men.
Facts.
Because you have to keep the story going. You have to keep them engaged. You have to have your peaks and your lows.
And Vince is willing to do anything.
He is willing to do anything. Like, there's a great line in it where he says, somebody says about him, they're like, the only person that Vince has been loyal to his entire life is the business.
Yeah, he doesn't own the business.
The business owns him. I compel you all to go watch this documentary. Give it one episode and tell me that you do not tee up that second one. I know that you guys have seen it. I don't know if you've finished it yet.
Yeah.
You finished it? You just first
started,
episode. Okay, what are your takes so far? What are things you didn't know about wrestling? Like what are you?
I've been looking for a doc like this for like 2 years. I was like Googling like wrestling docs and watching like wrestling docs on YouTube, like that people put together. I didn't even realize that this was like in production. And then I love that it explains the history of wrestling and all the arcs. Like it's not just about Vince, it's the entirety of WWF/WWE through the like viewpoint of the guy, the creator of it. It kind of goes back to the adage, like great men are hardly ever good men, because he is simultaneously both. He's like an absolute genius and like probably the greatest promoter of all time
ever. And
also like a true addict to like his proclivities, and like he becomes the character.
And he talks about that, about other, I don't want to give up too much, but like there's a moment where he talks about how sometimes other wrestlers will start to believe that they are the character. And
not realizing that he became it.
And what I thought was so good about this guy who does the doc, Chris Smith, is that, you know how in it's like the doc almost mirrors wrestling. In wrestling, there'll be these heels that sometimes will turn babyface or face. Face is like good guy, heel is bad guy. He does that with the wrestlers in the doc. You're rooting for Vince.
Wow.
Then he's the heel, you're rooting against him. Then he switches it, makes you, and I'm watching it, like assessing my emotional connection to the different characters. And you get honest shit in this. Like Hulk Hogan admits to snitching on all the other wrestlers when they were trying to unionize against Vince. And he goes, yeah, I went and told Vince they were all trying to unionize.
And then he later turns on Vince and sells him out, goes to WCW.
And then comes back. And Vince knows that's the best thing if he comes back.
That was actually an interesting point, that Vince doesn't look betrayal in return as him like giving in. He sees it as a power thing.
Yeah.
That no matter what you say about me, you always come back.
Yeah.
And that's so interesting because I never saw it that way. It's
That's
like
the ultimate victory.
Yeah.
You came crawling back, whatever it is. That's the ultimate sign of power and dominance.
And he looks at just what's good for business.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. One of the chicks sued him. They paid out and then they brought
Hired
her
her
back just because now she got ratings. Like that is nuts.
I mean, the storylines with this family.
I would hold a
Unbelievable.
grudge.
Like the fact that he's like, okay, I'm going to put my daughter in. She's now a wrestler and like she's a part of the storylines and they're all calling her a slut. Thousands of people in this arena. And then he looks over and just goes,
Bro.
There's a guy.
Perfect.
Sorry, go, Alco.
Just piggybacking off that, like I thought he was already off. Like you see it happening throughout the doc, but when one of the storylines was he was going to say that he slept with his daughter,
He impregnated her.
impregnated daughter for a storyline. I'm like,
crazy.
yo, this guy is next
out
level.
here.
Yeah, he's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah.
But I loved it because I was a bit more of a wrestling guy. Like I probably had like maybe a 5 to 10 year period where I was like in it.
I had like a 2-year
really?
run where I was like
Yeah.
really in it. And then when you said male soap opera, I remember I missed like 2 episodes
And then you're out.
I didn't care anymore. And I was like, oh, it's a male soap opera.
Yeah.
I'm good.
But,
But the way they tell story, and my brother, when he broke down the Cody Rhodes getting the belt from Roman Reigns, it was like a multi-year arc. And then it paid off in a way that everybody was so fucking thrilled about. It's like, wow, that is, I mean, perfect storytelling.
Yeah.
Perfect.
like having Undertaker undefeated for every WrestleMania, and then the first time he lost, that was like traumatic. Like, that was like, I can't believe what's happening right now.
Oh, you remember going through that live?
Yeah. Like that was nuts. I'm like, no, this can't happen. Like I was flustered. I'm like, that shit works. They're good. He's good.
He understands how to evoke that emotion and reflect what the people are feeling. Like when he becomes the big bad billionaire owner, it's at a time when American workers were really starting to resent these successful people who were holding them down, and they didn't feel the confidence in the American dream that they might have felt a decade prior. A decade prior, they might have felt, maybe I could be fucking Hulk Hogan. I can go out there, rip my shirt off. Like, I wonder if there's some of this reflects American economy and opportunity. But like to be able to understand that and go, oh, they hate me because I'm the boss that makes these horrible decisions and I don't care about the working man.
or the people that love Stone Cold. I
Because
didn't
he was
realize
the
this.
rejection of the authority.
Yeah, I didn't realize this. Like growing up, everyone had Awesome 316 like bumper stickers and shirts. You just see it everywhere. Like where I grew up in Florida.
Yeah.
And now that I'm understanding what he represented, I
Dude.
get it so much more.
If I'm not mistaken, it was around the period where it was like the 1%, 99%. They were doing all those march
protests
rallies,
or whatever?
protests.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like he, like you said, this is going on in reality, and he just amplifies it. And he didn't mind being the absolute boogeyman. He's like, I'll take it.
I will take the heat. You can hate me all you fucking want. And most people can't check that ego. Someone even said this to us about fighters entering the ring. Like, it's very hard for a fighter to be a heel. Something I've always credited Jake about. Jake
Chael might have said this.
Chael's probably. He's like, these fighters come to the ring and we want to be cheered. It's hard to be booed. But if you are booed like crazy, you can make crazy money. But it is emotionally too much weight for the fighter to hold. And I think that's something that you got to give Jake credit for. Like, he can be hated. It's a superpower.
Yeah.
It really is.
That was an interesting moment seeing how The Rock turned his entry into like praise, like by ultimately addressing and sort of confronting the ridicule and the boos. Like it's just a good lesson. Like he's getting shoved down the throats of the fans. They hate it. They hate that he's some legacy guy, that everything was given to him.
Because it looks like nepotism. It
Exactly.
looks like it's handed to him.
And then he acknowledges it and calls like a respect thing and then kind of turns heel.
Shut your candy ass up. And they like it. They love the fact.
They love it. It's like just such a good lesson. Like, oh, if you're in that position, like you can look at wrestling as kind of a template for like how to deal with the criticism.
You can look at wrestling for a template for entertainment in general. And some people just end up doing it authentically. Like it is so pure to them. I think like the fighting version of Stone Cold, this is going to seem a little bit derivative, but like a Nate Diaz. I do whatever I want. I'm gonna also Nate and Schaub are beefing right now, which is wild to see if that turns out. Yeah. But I mean, imagine they actually fight. Schaub is a big boy.
Fire.
Yeah, that's yeah. But this idea that like Nate has always been beloved because he's always been rebellious. I do what I want. I'll smoke fucking weed. Fuck you. I'm going out there. I'm choking you out. I don't give a fuck.
Yeah.
And he hasn't presented to us as some multi-billionaire who's made all this money fighting, and now we resent his life and his success.
Yeah.
Anyway, I would go watch this. There's
one question. Sorry, did he become the character, or was he always a character? And we're being a little sympathetic, saying he's become.
I think he becomes.
I thought about this. I think what happens is like the character is always like a part of you. And it might be like a quiet part of your personality that you can tap into.
Right.
And then the positive reinforcement gives you more confidence in leaning into that part of you.
That I think even just that question is more profound than you know, because he modeled the character after his father.
Oof.
So was it an inevitability that he would just always end up like his father? And him creating that character, was that just a faster pipeline to becoming that? Or is that ultimately why he did it, because he became the character that he modeled after his dad?
Also, like,
I see a lot of eerie similarities with Trump. Like, he has a son that's always just wanted love from him that he would never give love.
Yeah.
Like, just a lot
I
of
saw that
similar
part at the
things.
beginning. Yeah, his dad he's just getting the shit beaten out of him every day by his stepdad, and his dad never acknowledges it.
Yeah.
Just kind of pats him on the back when he meets him.
Yeah.
Hey, buddy.
there's some awesome moments where like you got to watch it. It is.
And wrestling fans are listening to this being like, duh.
Yeah,
where the fuck
we
have you
understand
been?
that we're late, and I want to talk to some wrestlers actually about this. Like, there's a guy on it, Cody Rhodes, that you see in it, and you had spoken. You'd done this like great breakdown of like what his arc had been.
Yeah,
but he's really fascinating because his father was also a wrestler, but he seems to have this. It's almost like a bird's eye view of it all. Like he's almost kind of like fluent in wrestling because he grew up in it, just like Vince did. Like Vince's dad was a promoter. I had no fucking clue.
Yeah.
He took over the business. He bought it. He bought his dad out.
Oh, wow.
So knowing that kind of like, this is how it works. This is the business. How do you succeed within the business? Like, I want to know what the fuck Cody did politically to sell Vince on him winning.
Yeah.
That's also like, you got to know on the come up, what do I need to do in order to get that belt? I need the fans to either not want me to have it at all or be really rooting for me.
Yeah.
Because Vince's decision ain't about, I like him, he's sweet, he's talented. It's, what does that fucking audience want?
Yeah.
Or what would they hate the most?
Yeah.
Done. He hooked his daughter up with Triple H. That was just supposed to be a storyline, and that became real life. And like kind of forced the marriage because they needed a marriage storyline for the show.
Wow.
Like, it's crazy. It's really crazy. And a great thing about this doc is that they started it before the shit came out about Vince. And then the last 2 episodes, it's after the shit that came out about Vincent. So it's like, wow, you see all the stuff that people were saying, like, no, he like everybody except Vince was saying, no, that's kind of him. Vince is in denial, and then you hear all the stuff that happens, like, oh shit, that really was.
Also, credit the wrestlers on it. They are brutally honest.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so good. I mean, you get why they're the greatest. You see why Vince was like, yeah, you're going to run the ring.
Every one of them is cutting a promo while they're talking.
Yeah.
It's not like some awkward, nervous person in a documentary like, oh my God, what will the world say when I have to? They are soaking it up.
Yeah.